I'm Bekah, and this is my BookTube channel. Like most of everybody else who gets started on BookTube, it's great to start off with the BookTube Newbie Tag. Like I said, I'm Bekah. I'm a wife and mom, and I live in New York, not the city. I live in central New York in the Syracuse area, and I've loved reading my whole life, but I mean, that's gonna end up being one of the questions, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, I guess I'll just jump into the questions, because if I start saying anything else, I'm gonna start answering the questions before I've asked the questions. Question 1. Why did you start this channel? So I've actually been thinking about starting a BookTube channel for a long time. Oh, something I actually should have said when I was introducing myself is I'm an indie author. I have a book that I published in spring of 2022. It is intended to be part of a series. I'm working on the second book, and it is exhausting because I keep thinking I've got it figured out and then it's not working out. I'm starting this channel because I am looking for a book community that I can be part of. I've tried to get involved on Instagram, especially as an indie author. Like, there's a big push, like you want to self-market and stuff, and I'm just not good at short form content. In my personal life, I really don't like small talk. I love to really get into it. I love to tell stories. I love to hear people tell me stories. When I ask, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? If you told me that you were gonna go do something the last time I saw you, and then I see you again and I say, hey, how did that thing go? I'm not gonna be upset. But if you just say, oh, it went good, and then you just move on, a little piece of my heart breaks, because I really want to hear you tell me oh, it was amazing because we got to do this, or oh, we had this one hiccup and it was stressful. I want to hear the story. And that's kind of the issue I've run into with Instagram. And I made a TikTok account. I think it has one video, and I've kind of tried to connect with bookstagrammers on there and stuff, but I also don't have notifications turned on, so if someone messages me on Instagram, I don't know until I open Instagram. So back to why did I start this channel? I started this channel, one, because I really want to have long form content where I can engage with the book community about books that I love. I've tried to interact with people in person, and I haven't really found my in-person group yet. It's been really tough for me to find in-person friends that like the same books I like and will engage and have time and stuff like that. Because I don't have a lot of in-person people to talk to about books, it's all stuck inside, and I need to be able to let it out. I need to be able to read a book and then talk about it, even if it's kind of one-sided initially for me because I'm talking into the camera, but then you guys can join along in the comments. Tell me if you read the same book I read and what you thought about it. Tell me if you read the same book I read and you didn't like it as much as I did, or you loved parts that I didn't like. We're all different. We're all going to perceive things that happen in a story differently, and respond to them in different ways based on our personal experiences, our personal tastes. That's one of the beauties of consuming art, because reading books are a type of art form. I've had to convince myself of that because my mom and both of my sisters are very, very talented artists when it comes to drawing and painting and doing things. And I've always said I wasn't a very good artist, and I just have a different art form. I love writing, and writing is my art form, and storytelling is my art form, and I had to learn to embrace that. It was really putting myself down. So I'm starting this channel because I want to give my husband a little relief, because I usually finish a book and then I have to try to talk to him about it, and he doesn't. He's very sweet. He listens, but a lot of times he does not know or does not care what actually happened in the book. So yeah, I want to talk to people about books, and I want to engage with people. And leading into the next question, what are some fun or unique things that you can bring to BookTube? If you watch most people do these newbie tags, a lot of people really struggle with this question, and I understand why. You don't want to come across as self-absorbed or like overly confident. You don't want to sound like you're putting someone else down by saying what you're gonna bring. But like I think I want to bring a space for readers like me, readers who like certain genres and don't really like other genres, but like that's okay. We're not hating on anybody. We're not here to say someone else is wrong, because I think people having different opinions on things, unless it's like a moral issue, that's not an opinion, that's a problem. But if it's just like you like romance and you like thrillers or true crime or whatever, like that's fine. We can like what we like and it'll bring us joy. And I want to find and also create a space to have conversations with people who enjoy the types of books that I enjoy and engage with stories in the way that I like to engage with them. And I also have a lot of like books that I've read that I feel like I want to tell other people about, but I don't know who to tell. And so I'm hoping that if I tell people about it on here, that I can get some people to read some of my favorite authors. Oh, I think you just probably heard my dog. Anyways, what are you most excited about for this channel? I'm excited to finally get some words out when I'm done reading a book. I have Goodreads and I read a lot on my Kindle, and so it'll like drop you over to Amazon when you finish reading it just for you to write a review and leave your stars. And it's so funny because even though I love to write, I hate writing book reviews because I can't seem to like type out what it is I'm feeling. I can talk it out. I can finish reading a book and talk for a while about reading the book and how the book impacted me and like plot twists that but I just can't seem to like write that down for some reason. I feel like I should start using note cards as bookmarks and write things down as I'm reading, which doesn't work as well with the Kindle. I do use the bookmark option, but like I don't know. I gotta talk about it. I can't type. I gotta talk about it. So I'm excited to have the chance to talk about books that I've already read or books that I'm planning to read. I'm really excited to engage with other people who are reading, and I feel like I'm just repeating myself. So we're gonna move on. Why do you love reading? I love reading because I love stories. I love being told stories. I love telling stories. That's why I became an author, was because I wanted to tell a story. And I want to continue to tell stories. I have ideas for the books in the series that I'm planning on writing. I have an idea for a standalone book. But I just love stories. And one of the reasons I love reading when it comes to stories is because of the immersion value in it. When you're watching TV or watching a movie, sometimes you can kind of get immersed, but there is this like point of separation because you're looking at a screen, you're looking at someone else doing this thing, and you're simply an observer. And even when you read a story that's told in third person, there's just this immersion that happens because it's all happening in your mind. You're experiencing the emotions, you're experiencing the events firsthand. And it's even more so if the book is told in first person, because you're reading the whole thing from the perspective of I, myself, me. And I love stories. And so that's why I love reading. I love being able to just escape into a fictional world. I 100% use reading as escapism, and I love being immersed, and I love absorbing a story and living a story. And I really, really love when authors can write a story that like pulls you in so much that you kind of almost lose your concept of reality. Like you finish reading the book and your mind is still in that book, and you're kind of having a hard time separating from the fact that was fiction and you live in the real world. And as unhealthy as that sounds, like I just think it's such a talent, and it's such a testament to like their ability as an author to create that art that I was talking about before. The next question is, what got you into reading? I mean, I was just naturally inclined to read once I started learning how to read. It came kind of naturally to me. It wasn't hard for me to learn how to read. Also, my grandma was an elementary school teacher, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right, when she retired from teaching, she worked as a librarian. And I also remember growing up, whenever we would go visit her, because I live in New York now. She lived in New York as well, and we lived in other states. When I was growing up, whenever we would go visit her in my mom's hometown, she would take me and my sisters to the library, and would let us walk around and check out books on her card, so that way we had something to read. And because she spent all of her time reading. My grandparents had a pool, and so she would sit out by the pool, or she would sit just outside the house where she could see the pool, and she would just read and let us hang out outside. And then at the end of the night, she would sit in her little rocking chair in the living room and she would read. And she was a voracious reader. That's something that I'm sure I inherited from her. Environment-wise, that's what got me into reading. Books-wise, I think... So I remember... This is also kind of going back to the why I love reading question, the immersion thing I talked about. I remember in 3rd grade reading a book that I got so immersed in that I was reading it during a free time during my class at school, and the teacher told everyone to get up, to line up to like go to lunch or whatever it was we were doing to leave the classroom. She told everyone to line up. I didn't hear her. I didn't hear anyone get out of their desk. I didn't hear anyone talk to me. I was so deeply immersed in this book, I had no idea what was going on around me. Everyone got completely lined up, and the teacher had to call my name repeatedly for me to snap out of it and pick my head up and look around in front of me and find all of my fellow desks empty. And then I had to turn around and look at everyone lined up staring at me. And it was one of those moments where I was just like, oh man, reading is so cool. And it's funny because like I feel like everybody else would have been embarrassed by that story, and I don't remember being embarrassed. I remember thinking it was the funniest thing that had ever happened to me at that time, because I just thought it was hilarious that I was sitting there reading and I just couldn't hear what was going on around me because all I could think about was this book. The next question is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I would just in general probably ask them like what are some books that they remember being super immersed in, like the story I told, or like some of their favorite books that they remember reading throughout their life that had just like a plot twist, or something that came up that really took them by surprise. Because I just always think that's super exciting as a reader when you don't see it coming. There are certain things that when I'm reading, especially because I'm a writer, that I can see coming a mile away. And then there's some where I start to want to figure it out, but I also don't, because I really want to be surprised, and I will genuinely just disengage the investigative part of my brain that wants to figure out how this is going to get written. And I'm just like, nope, shut up. We are not here to figure this out. We're here to enjoy the story. So that's what we're going to do. So yeah, I just want to know, like, what are some books that they've read that have had some great plot twists or great character development that just like really stuck with them or like really immersed them. And then I probably would in general just ask them for like advice on how to do this, because I'm just figuring it out. What challenges are you anticipating overcoming? Uploading consistently, dedicating the time and energy to editing and posting videos, because I know for a fact I can record videos no problem. I actually attempted to have a podcast a couple years ago, and I recorded a lot of episodes, and I edited and uploaded a few. Dedicating the time and energy, especially because I made the personal choice to like edit the podcast down. So I was sitting there, I would record, and I didn't set a time limit really aside. I think it was like maybe like a 1 to 2 hour time limit. I wasn't strict on the time because I just wanted to chat and have fun. And so they ended up being kind of lengthy recordings that I then was trying to like splice down, and it just took so much. And I think internal motivation wise, because I am very internally motivated, I'm not externally motivated. I think it would have worked better for me to push harder on it if I had the opportunity to do it as a monetary gain, because I could definitely sit down and tell myself, like, I'm doing this because it will provide me a payday. But I was just doing it for fun, and so I ran out of steam, and I never went back. And it's kind of sad. I really wish that I had done a little bit more with it, and I think about revisiting a lot. I also think about reformatting it, giving myself better time constraints, you know, just doing it a little bit different maybe. But yeah, anyways, my challenge is editing and uploading and giving you the videos that I have now committed to partaking in, and so I just hope that I do well with that, because I want this to be something that I actually stick with, because I'm really good at starting things and not finishing them. When did you start reading? I mean, I kind of already touched on this, and I actually have a separate video that I want to make where I kind of go through the timeline of my reading journey, because for most of us, it's gone kind of in waves, and it's taken different paths and taken on different forms. So, as far as I know, I was not reading prior to going to school. As far as I remember, I learned to read in kindergarten, just like most other kindergartners, and I was able to read very basic stories. In first grade, was just reading basic kids' school stuff. In second grade, I was homeschooled, and was on a kind of high reading level, especially because I was homeschooled with my older sister, who's 2 years older than me, so she was in fourth grade. And to make things a little simpler, which a lot of homeschooling families do, is just kind of even things out. And because I was a strong reader, my mom was able to kind of have me and my older sister do a lot of the same things, so that it was on my older sister's level. I actually came out of second grade homeschooling and went into public school for third grade, and I was in like a fourth or fifth grade spelling level. And then when I went into fourth grade, I was at like a seventh grade spelling level. Just because I love words, and grammar rules make so much sense to my brain. But yeah, so I started reading as a kid, and I read kind of sporadically throughout my life. Probably like late elementary, middle school was when I was reading the least. And then in high school I was kind of reading a bit more, but definitely just more into being social and being around friends than reading, except for in the summertime. I had a hard time keeping in contact and hanging out with friends in the summer, so I would spend a lot of time, like, my mom and I would go to the library, and I would wander around and get a stack of books and go home and read them, and then a week or so later we'd go and do it again, and just kind of cycle through. After high school, I think, is when I read the most for my, like, young adult life. I was reading a ton, and then in my early 20s I became a mom, and I was reading less. Mid-20s, I had my youngest, and I was so tired I couldn't do anything. But then I did want to get back into reading, and so the reading that I'm at right now, the reading intensity and ferocity that I have for reading right now, started in 2021-ish, because I had a Kindle, and I was kind of rediscovering my love for reading, and then I had a friend who asked me to read A Court of Thorns and Roses because she had read it and she wanted someone to talk to about it because she had no one to talk to about it, and she lent me her copy, and I didn't read it initially, and then she kept asking me if I had read it or not, and then I finally felt bad and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read it. My daughter had a surgery, and so I started reading it like the day before her surgery, stayed up late with her so that way getting her to surgery without her being awake and needing to eat something ahead of time. If you're a mom, you know what I'm talking about. I stayed up late with her reading it, was getting kind of interested, took her to surgery, and I was reading the whole time I was at the hospital, and got really, really absorbed into it. And then, like, well, actually, I'll admit, like, I got super into it, and then we got under the mountain and I lost a lot of interest. And I will do this thing when I'm reading where if a book isn't really isn't really hitting it for me, and I'm just kind of like, I just want to know how this ends, or if it's worth it to continue reading the story, I will skip to the end, and I will read and skim the last couple chapters, and even if it spoils the book for me, it will either tell me, yes, this book is worth to finish reading, please finish reading it, or it will tell me, for me personally, for what I would like to have happen, it will let me know, don't finish reading this. So, we were under the mountain, and I skipped to the end, and I went, oh, let's go back under the mountain. So we went back under the mountain, we finished, made it all the way to the end, and then we became obsessed. So, that was a very long-winded answer for a question that probably just should have said, I started reading in kindergarten. But I love stories. I love telling them. Hopefully you like hearing them. And tell me yours. People think I'm introverted because I will get anxious when I meet new people, and I'll be quiet because I'm worried that they won't like me. But I am genuinely extroverted because I hate not talking to people. Oh my gosh, I love talking to people so much. I love listening to them talk, and I love telling them stories. So please tell me your stories in response to my own. Where do you read? I'm just as basic as pretty much everyone else who does this newbie tag. I read on my couch, and I read on my bed, which you are sitting on top of a massive stack of books because I don't have a tripod yet. No, and that's actually why I got a Kindle. I have sensory problems, and I can get very, very overstimulated, and especially as a mom, by the end of the day, I just can't. So I, for a long time, didn't want to get a Kindle. I didn't want to get an e-reader. I was really just being stubborn about it, even though I needed one. And I told my husband I would like a Kindle, and he got me one, I believe in 2019. I would have to go back and check, but I'm fairly certain it was in 2019. At the end of December. It was meant to be a Christmas gift, but also our dating anniversary is a couple days before Christmas, and I do not ever request gifts. I just like to acknowledge that that day is important. But the Kindle came in the mail, and he hates not giving presents when he has them. He's very impatient in that way. And so he got really excited, and he wanted to give it to me, and I'm like, but if it's a Christmas gift, it has to wait till Christmas. And then he was like, oh, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, no, it's our anniversary, and he gave it to me, and it was very sweet, and it makes me happy, and I still have it. And I liked using it to read in bed because I could have all the lights off in the room, and I could have the Kindle dimmed down, and I could still see what was on the page, and I could read and just relax and unwind without too much stimulation, because sometimes it does bother me if I have to read downstairs on the couch that I have to have lights turned on. Sometimes I will try to use the little clip-on lights, but I always feel like I'm fighting with them. So I don't really like to use them as often. Sometimes, if I'm really, really hooked on a book, I will try to read it in the tub, but I am very nervous about that. I'm very, very scared I'm going to drop it in the tub. So I will usually read like this, with the book outside of the tub and myself inside of the tub, which has been not super relaxing. I've gone to silent book clubs, and I've read there. My daughters do dance, and a lot of times I will take a book with me when I have to go wait for them during their session. But yeah, I usually read on the couch, or I read in my bed, like everybody else. What kind of books do you like to read? Okay, this is the exciting part. Now we're gonna get into it. Okay, so I am so basic. I love YA fantasy. I am starting to love new adult fantasy more, but I love fantasy. And I was thinking about this because I was thinking about the fact that I was going to need, one, it's my mom's fault. She introduced me to the Chronicles of Narnia when I was little. Unfortunately, she didn't introduce me to the book. She introduced me to the movies. However, still the Chronicles of Narnia. And of course, I was at a very influential age when Lord of the Rings came out. That came out when I was in like 4th or 5th grade. At least the first one came out when I was in like 4th or 5th grade. And so then I got, you can't see it, but this is a cloak that I made out of a blanket, and I crocheted a Lothlorien leaf pin because I was a hobbit for Halloween in 2023. But yeah, I love fantasy. I'll sometimes read romantasy. I like romance stories. But honestly, I like the story more than I like the romance. I like a fantasy story with romance that is just like a cherry on top. And it's got to make sense. And so yeah, and I just love magic. I just love the idea of the world being more than what it is, and I love the idea of creatures. I want to make a video about this, but we have a little picket, a little oh my gosh, I can't believe I just forgot what the word was. A little bow truckle statue type thing that's posable that I bought for my husband a couple years ago, and initially he had it like attached to his mic or his camera or something because he was streaming video games, and then we moved and he decided to start hiding Pickett in random spots in our kitchen at first. I don't know if he'll make it to other parts. No, he made it to the living room the other day actually, but he's hiding Pickett in random spots, and he left Pickett for a while after he had been spotted recently, and I decided to move Pickett, and took my husband less than a day to find him, but he hasn't gotten moved again. So, but yeah, I just love the idea of like, I don't know, just magic. Magic makes me so happy. Not magic tricks, magic, and fantasy stories, and there's usually just such a great story that goes along with fantasy. There's just this, like, it's just really inspirational. And I've come to really love the fact that fantasy authors can give us a space to process real world things in a safe fictional place. But it's not here because you're sitting on it. But A Court of Mist and Fury goes right here. And it is my favorite book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I actually do think Wings and Ruin is the best book, but A Court of Mist and Fury is super important to me personally, because of Feyre's journey, of Feyre's struggle with depression, her struggle with feeling loved, her struggle with an abusive partner, and then finding and accepting love from a safe partner, because it's something that I experienced in my own personal life. And yeah, it's something that I feel like if it was written in a contemporary real world story, for me personally, it wouldn't have done anything. It would have just been like, yeah, that's real life. But having a fantasy character that is part of this world that's so much more, and then she's dealing with something that I've dealt with, and she's struggling with something that I've struggled with, and she has this community of people that come around her to say, like, that struggle isn't gonna take you away. You have the space and the ability to be more than that struggle, and build yourself beyond that struggle, is really just like so important to me. I did have a period of time where I read a lot of like memoirs, and I will kind of try to read some other genres, but just like, I'm just not gonna be honest, like, it's very difficult for me to read books that are not fantasy. Because my brain is just like, that's not scratching the itch, I don't like it. That's the end of the typical newbie tag questions. I added on one for myself to answer for you guys, which was, what am I currently reading? Physical book. I just started Heartless by Marissa Myers, the author of the Lunar Chronicles. I got to read the Lunar Chronicles last year. I read Cinder, and then I read the other three. Yeah. Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and Winter, I think is the last one. And then there are two other books that kind of go into the story, but I didn't go into them. But then my friend, I told her that I had read them, and that if she ever, we've gone to library book sales together. She's the same friend that got me to read ACOTAR. we've gone to library sales together. We don't live near each other right now. We live like an hour and a half away from each other now. And so when we each go to our own library book sales now, we text each other and we'll be like, hey, is there a book you're looking for? So I told her to look for those for me. She didn't find them, but she found Heartless, and she bought Heartless for me. So I just started that the other day. I intend to read Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent on my Kindle because I just recently read her Crowns of Nyaxia books. However, did not complete reading that. I read the first two, loved the first two, really, really loved those two characters, Aurea and Rain. And then I read the third book, which follows Rain's friend from the trials, and it just wasn't as interesting to me. Wasn't a story that I enjoyed. I thought it was really beautifully written. I thought a lot of the inner turmoil that the character was dealing with was really good. It just wasn't something I was interested in. So I finished that third book, one of the second duology, not reading the second one. But Carissa Broadbent is great, and so I've been thinking about reading Daughter of No Worlds for a long time. One of my Bookstagram friends posted that she was gonna read it the other day, and then like 24 hours later posted she finished reading it, and I was like, you read that whole thing in a day? And like, don't get me wrong, I've read a book in a day too. I'm not used to seeing other people read a whole book in a day. And so I was like, was it that good? You read the whole thing in a day? It was that good? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. I stayed up way too late reading that book. So I was like, all right, I guess I gotta read it now. So I'm gonna read that. And then on audio, I didn't really talk about this, but I don't really like audiobooks. For me personally, I'm not good at interpreting what's going on, and I don't enjoy it as much when I'm having to listen to someone else tell me, with a couple exceptions. One, if I have already read the book and it's a good narrator, definitely use that sample option when you go to listen to an audiobook, because you got to find out how well the narrator is doing. If I've already read the book and it's a good narrator, I can listen to a book as a reread. It's what I've been doing to reread the Throne of Glass books. So yeah, I like to reread my books via audiobook if it is a good one. I reread the Six of Crows duology as audiobooks. I like doing that when I have a lot of housework that I gotta get done, if I need to like really hunker down and like knock out the dishes, because where we live now we have a dishwasher. Where we lived before, we did not. We had to hand wash everything. Sometimes it would really pile up. And so if I put on an audiobook, because I've already read it, I could see it all in my head. I already had a really stable frame of reference of what was going on, who the characters were, all that kind of stuff. And so that's been good. It's also really great for a really long car ride. And I've also a couple times done an audiobook while I crochet or cross stitch, because I like to do those crafts. This is my little cross stitch that I made. Oh, that was cute. It says Princeling and Witchling, because if you've read Throne of Glass, you know why. Anyways. So yeah, audiobooks are good for that. Audiobooks are great for people who struggle with reading, like my middle daughter. I was really, really reluctant for a long time to do audiobooks with her, and I wish I had done it sooner, because it would have made a huge difference. And it does. She enjoys drawing and coloring, so letting her listen to an audiobook while doing art is great for her. She still gets a lot of story. What's even better, if you have a reader who is struggling, let them listen to an audiobook with the book in front of them. Just like we used to, I mean, they still have them at the library. There are books that you can get a CD or a tape for that will read the page to you, you follow along and tells you when to turn the page. She did a really great job. She read through Chris Colfer's A Tale of Magic series. It's a trilogy. It's like A Tale of Magic, A Tale of Sorcery, A Tale of something else. I don't know. She read through that trilogy though. It was a complete trilogy. She read through it because she did it partly on audiobook, partly with it in front of her. And yeah, that's important. Also, I love Lord of the Rings. I've tried to read The Hobbit repeatedly, cannot make it through that book. Really, really want to read the actual Lord of the Rings books. Don't know that I could actually read them because sometimes my brain just gets really tired and bored. So I found out a couple years ago that Andy Serkis recorded himself. I mean, he was with Audible. It wasn't just an on his own thing. Although I do think it stemmed from him doing a thing on his own. He did like a reading marathon thing to raise money or something like that. I can't remember, but he recorded with Audible himself reading pretty much all of the Lord of the Rings books, not just the Lord of the Rings. Like, he also read The Hobbit, he read like the Silmarillion and all those other texts, and so I was like, yes, I love Andy Serkis. He's so freaking talented. He's an amazing actor. He's an amazing voice talent. Like, it's undeniably true. So I downloaded The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, as read by Andy Serkis. I will admit, I downloaded that in 2022 in March, and I started listening to it on a road trip, and I still haven't finished that book via audiobook. Still working on it. We're definitely towards the end. They are floating down the river, about to meet the band of orcs that kind of causes the group to part ways. So yeah, so Heartless physical, Daughter of No World ebook, and then Tower of Dawn and Fellowship of the Ring audio. As I have said many, many times, I love stories and I like to tell them, and that is why this is a long video. Most of the time these videos are supposed to be kind of short, but yeah. I just got talking and I couldn't stop talking. So yeah, tell me in the comments what you guys are currently reading. Tell me in the comments some of the books that we have in common. I would really love to, like, if you spot anything back here that you want to talk about. Let me see. I've read pretty much everything on this shelf. Definitely read everything on this shelf. There's another shelf up there. I'm going to do a shelf tour at some point. So you guys can see what I'll have. This is also not an aesthetic channel. You will not see my books organized by color, ever. If they somehow end up being organized by color, it's going to be because someone broke in and rearranged all my books, and I'm going to find that person and kill them. Because no thank you. Nope. They need to be organized by author or like genre. These ones are sort of organized by genre / something I think makes them a category. But yeah, this was my BookTube Newbie Tag video. This is going to be the first video that goes up on my channel. And my current plan is to try to post every week. It's probably going to be on Mondays because it's usually a day when I have somewhat free time, and I usually will also have like Saturday and Sunday free time, so I'm thinking that gives me the best cushion to make sure that I at least get a video recorded and edited. If you made it all the way to the end of this, thanks for hanging out with me, thanks for listening. Please tell me your stories. I can't wait to hear them. I can't wait to interact with you guys. I can't wait to grow and build in this community, and just talk about what we love, which is books and stories and reading. Okay, bye. I think the dropping thing works. We can always jump and cut and whatnot. You're right there. I see. Okay. Do you like my notebook? Like, anyways. Oh, now I'm just talking way too much because I don't know how to do an outro. You saw my sock. Filming an outro is weird. Oh, it's so weird.